Speaking of spooky, scary dinosaurs, this is a freaking terrifying mythology ride in a theme park, apparently. Which is like, sick, let's go, I want to see more. You don't see a whole lot of, like, horror roller coasters, and I love seeing, like,
You know what I've
unique
always found
stuff
to
that's
be
not, like, Disney
interesting?
related. You know, like,
Mythology. Especially Greek, Egyptian, and Norse mythology.
bro, is that a
And I'm
Trojan
sure that a big
horse?
part of that interest comes from growing up with Ensemble Studios' hit 2002 game, Age of Mythology, which highlighted the gods and stories of these specific cultures. However, I wanted to discuss the topic of mythology through the lens of theme parks, and by researching this video, I discovered a lot of extremely
hell
interesting,
no.
and for the most part frightening attractions that I don't think I would have learned about otherwise. You might
Nah,
recall
son,
that
see,
in
that
2022,
that's some like disturbing looking
I
animatronics.
produced a ridiculous video where I covered a variety of Christian theme parks, and then the following year, I followed it up with another video where I looked at religious parks more broadly, covering not only more Christianity, but also Judaism, Buddhism, and Taoism.
That's a thing?
Researching and
We gotta
writing
go back
both
and watch
videos
that one.
was incredibly interesting to me. While I thought that I had covered most of what was out there, it was a recent suggestion by a channel watcher by the name of JSSmoothD that brought about this video. When I asked my community for video suggestions, they replied, "You should do mythology and theme parks. You cover rides based on different mythologies around the world, like Greek, Norse, Egyptian, etc. Sort of a spiritual successor, pun intended, to your religion duology." At first I thought,
That's a genius
well,
idea.
that's an interesting idea, but what's really out there? I've been to Mount Olympus in the Wisconsin Dells, but while it's mostly a
Hold the hell up! They got a Mount Olympus?
water park, it does have a good handful of wooden coasters like
It's called Pegasus! Oh, that's awesome!
Pegasus, Cyclops, Zeus, and Hades, all of
Genius!
which are notable through how sketchy and rough they are.
I mean, listen, okay, this ain't Disneyland.
It's an interesting park, but the theming isn't really there. I then thought about how a few Six Flags parks have coasters named Medusa, which are not really themed at all, and then Europa Park has Poseidon.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, see, because there's like the rides that are just freaking roller coasters with whatever name. You know, you go to Six Flags, you got the Superman, you got the Green Lantern, you got the Flash, you got the... It's all the same freaking roller coaster, they're just a different name.
Which is notable for being one of Mock's very few
I want to see these things. I want to see, like, the Pirates of the Caribbean versions of, like, other stuff.
water coaster models. The attraction begins by
I
taking
love
you
these
through the
water
ruins of
coasters.
Troy,
They're always so
and
cool.
the rest of the track conveys Odysseus' journey as he's antagonized by Poseidon throughout the story of the Odyssey. But while the theming elements are cool, there's just not actually any notable storytelling going on here.
No, but the set looks amazing.
That then made me think of another water coaster, Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld Orlando. But while it's a striking attraction with an interesting history, I've covered it before. The same applies with Poseidon's Fury at Islands of Adventure, which I discussed a few years ago in my Lost Continent retrospective, so I don't think that it makes much sense to cover the same ground again.
I would be fine with it. I'd react to it. You could do that. I wouldn't mind. Screw it, bro. Let the content farm go. Keep it under 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Under 10 minutes, just a quick little look at this one ride. That's it. 10 minute quick little bit. Bro, I'd farm the hell out of it. I'd react to it. Let's go. Come on. You could do this.
However, the more I
believe
researched
in
this
you.
video to see if it was a viable topic or not, the further I found myself in a bizarre world of incredibly interesting attractions that I never knew existed. Surprisingly, most of them are scarier. Probably
Bro, this is why I like it, though, because it's like, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to go to Orlando in my life, right? Not because I don't like it or nothing, it's just what are the odds, right? I don't even go outside. But, so I'm never gonna freaking see this. I'm never gonna experience this. So I freaking love watching videos of, like, what the hell, that exists out there somewhere?
because we view
Look
the
at
ancient
this.
world as a mysterious place. But I think there is enough here to continue the topic of religious
What the hell is
theme
that,
parks,
Bigfoot?
but still taking it in a completely different direction. So thank you JSSmoothD for the suggestion, and let's get right into the intriguing and frightening world of mythological theme parks and attractions.
Bro, your name is Poseidon Entertainment. Come on, bro, just cover Poseidon again. Bro, this music got me hyped though. Why do I feel like I'm about to watch a documentary?
Hey, just a quick favor, but researching and writing videos takes a lot of time. So if you'd like to support the channel, you can easily help me out by just leaving a like. If I asked you to think about a dark ride based around Egyptian mythology, then what's the first thing that comes to mind? I think for most people,
I don't
they'll
freaking
probably
know
think
nothing.
of Revenge of the Mummy from the Universal parks, and while technically roller coasters, they have
I
enough
guess,
dark
yeah,
ride
okay.
elements that I can still see them falling into this category for most people. Are they necessarily mythological rides, though? They're based, of course, on the 1999 version of The Mummy, which incorporates mystical and mythological aspects into the supernatural elements of the film. So yeah, I would say that any version of this ride might fall under the mythology attraction umbrella. While there are key differences in ride design between the three versions in California, Florida, and
I mean, I guess, but like, I don't know if Egyptian, actual Egyptian mummies like came to life and like were like made out of sand. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they actually look like that.
Singapore,
I think it was more based on the movie.
they loosely follow a story about film production gone wrong, where the cursed undead mummy of a former priest, Imhotep, picks off the film crew. If you're watching, I'm sure that you know at least one version of this ride pretty well, so I won't discuss its details, but I thought it was worth a mention to reinforce the theme of the video. Moving into an attraction that you've probably never seen or heard about though, I think that it would be interesting to return to Sui Tien.
Oh, frick is that? Well,
If
that
you
was
watched my
insane.
religious theme parks video, then you might recall that Sui Tien is a Vietnamese theme park themed to Buddhism, located in Ho Chi Minh City. It's an incredibly intriguing but also bizarre place that I hope to visit someday, but besides its Buddhist theme, what makes the park so interesting is its collection of haunted houses and low-budget ghost trains.
How exactly do you get a haunted house out of a Buddhist theme?
Previously, I briefly mentioned an Egyptian-themed dark ride here, but since we're now discussing mythology, I thought it would be interesting to return and really see what it entails. You begin by moving into the mouth of an elephant, which transitions
Okay, that is a little bit scary. I'm not gonna lie.
into an Egyptian
I've never been eaten by no elephant before. Like that's.
room where attendants will scan your ticket.
Wow, what's with the giant muscly furries though?
I'm going to attempt to pronounce the name of the ride, but it essentially translates into underground tunnel, although according to the Sui Tien website,
I'm very real with you. I don't know what those Egyptian guys got to do with Buddhism though.
its English name is Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Oh,
Moving on,
and that's Buddhist? Is that a Buddhist thing?
you walk through one of the world's strangest rides.
I'm sorry. What's with the random ass mannequins?
Cues. First encountering these odd mannequins, posed among what I would guess is unlicensed digital Egyptian figures printed out and put up on the walls.
Why the mannequins are like that? That's what I'm confused about.
Continuing, you walk through the world's most depressing hallway, and at its end, you encounter more digital prints. It's such a strange thing to find here, because the art style is like something that you would
That was
design
kinda
for a AAA video game, where it's trying way too hard to look good, but ends up becoming this sort of generic digital slop. Its weirdness is what makes the ride already intriguing though, and on moving to the end of another hallway, you find yourself
But so far, I think they just like took your money for basically a walk down a hallway.
at the load station, where some sort of
Oh,
generic
okay, there we
French
go.
vehicle
Now we got getting somewhere.
awaits you. As the ride begins, you move into the dark and spend a good amount of time
Oh, yeah, okay, we got skeletons.
in this haunted cave, where
Well, I'm
skeletons
scared.
dangle and sway as if cursed. There are some other horrific and ghostly figures in this segment, although I have no idea what
Oh,
they're
as a
intended
ghost.
to be.
As a ghost.
Moving on, the vehicle travels into what appears to be an Egyptian treasure chamber, which lights up and entices riders with gold.
I'm glad they got the disco lights on the Egyptians. All Egyptian pyramids have disco lights.
Moving into another part of the tomb, I think the ride intends to convey that you're here to steal the treasure, and because of your transgression, you're suddenly attacked by mummies which pop up from the side.
All late, but okay.
Another jump scare mummy swings down from the ceiling and almost hits riders, and then moving on, you stop in the darkness. It's difficult to tell what occurs next as you hear a demonic laugh, but the ride vehicle either suddenly takes off or potentially falls down a short dip in the track, startling riders and bringing them into what I believe is the Duat.
Oh damn, they got an alligator.
The underworld.
What was an alligator to do what?
Horrific figures torments the people who have fallen into this realm, and the ride then abruptly concludes, bringing you back to the unload station. It's a relatively short experience, but what makes it interesting is that I don't even believe it's necessarily related to Egyptian mythology. The other scarier attractions of Suitin
but the mummy one is? Come on now.
Based on Buddhist conceptions of hell, which themselves are derived from older Chinese mythology. While Underground Tunnel may have an Egyptian theme on its surface, I do get the impression that from its strange creatures in the beginning and the scenes of torture in the afterlife, that this is actually not an attraction based on Egyptian mythology so much as Chinese mythology, or possibly the Buddhist conception of hell. In the same way that Revenge of the Mummy takes the ancient Egyptian theme and interprets it through an American lens, in this case Hollywood movie making, Underground Tunnel is, I think, intended to be understood by its Vietnamese audience as another Buddhist hell ride, but just done with an Egyptian flavor.
Oh,
that may or may not be true, as I can't understand the dialogue of the attraction, and there's very little information online about what it's intended to be. But judging the concept from other attractions around the park, and from what I previously covered elsewhere throughout East Asia, I think that this is a pretty safe assumption, resulting in a very unique and intriguing ride.
Well, it's freaking interesting. I'll tell you what. If I was a little kid,
mythology, the stories and legends,
and like that's like the only theme park around, that'd be pretty freaking dope. I think I'd love it.
Of the Greeks are probably the most famous in the West, and surprisingly, I think it's actually quite underrepresented throughout theme park attractions. There are certainly notable Atlantis-themed attractions with Journey to Atlantis and Poseidon's Fury, but why isn't Greece represented more broadly? Well, researching this video was
it's because Hercules didn't take off that well when Disney released it.
Great opportunity to discover something new, and I was guided towards Terra Mítica, a park located in Benidorm, Spain. Opening in 2000, the park is themed to the ancient world, containing the lands of Egypt, Greece, Rome, Iberia, and the islands, an area broadly based on Mediterranean myths and legends. Terra Mítica seems to have a lot of fun theming with its buildings and live entertainment, but its attractions are otherwise mostly coasters and flat rides with ancient and mythological themes. This is fine, and it certainly seems like an interesting park if this was all that it offered, but it does have one single dark ride that stands out as notably enthralling.
I saw some stuff I like already.
The ride is known as the Labyrinth of the Minotaur, and is an interactive shooting attraction developed by Sally Dark Rides. That seems like a weird ride
okay, we got a labyrinth ride. Let's go.
The ride vehicles are intended to be chariots, with its laser shooting devices being described as magical crossbows. The attraction first has you entering the Palace of Knossos, where you'll make your way through various trials and encounter the terrifying Minotaur. That said, despite the theme, I don't believe that the ride follows the story of Theseus, and is instead an amalgamation of different myths, showing you different monsters with light-up targets to aim towards. The ride begins as you move through the palace doors, and through what I believe is a forest among ancient ruins. It's quiet, eerie, and builds a sense of mystery as you travel through the dark space.
Nah, it's a labyrinth.
From out of nowhere, the screams of the Hydra reveal your first encounter, as you become entangled among its 7 heads, and escaping into the darkness, boulders...
Oh, it's a Hydra? That was like a bunch of worms.
A little dog is heard whining out of fear, and as you turn the corner, you quickly encounter the ferocious Nemean lion.
That's what that is?
It provides a small bit of respite as you enter another cave and hear a jolly tune played by an ancient flute. As you turn the corner, you witness a woman who is playing the instrument, but with a sudden loud neigh, she and the riders are attacked by a pack of centaurs.
Oh damn, the freaking centaurs gonna kill a lady!
Escaping, riders travel quietly through the forest.
You gotta protect your waifu!
But then, after an rumble, they stumble across a...
The hell is that? That's a dragon?
Next, past an owl and ruins with rats scattered everywhere. The vehicle travels into the darkness, where the loud, thunderous barks of dogs can be heard. Looking up, riders encounter Cerberus, the 3-headed dog that guards Hades.
It's a
doggo. I love
doggo.
the almost grimy fur texture on the figure, providing a sense of visceral peculiarity.
Actually, though, right? With the red light, it kind of gives it a bit of an uncanny look. It's almost like foaming at the mouth.
Moving off into the darkness, the riders now enter a stone
The
structure,
harpy!
finding themselves in a nest of nasty harpies that they then have to fend against.
Ew!
Moving further in, there's a
Yuck.
stairway with a clever
Those toes are
collapsing
not
skeleton
sexy.
effect, and turning to the right, riders confront a monstrous spider woman.
Ugh.
After a bit of quiet but ominous movement around the ruins, the ride vehicle is ambushed by two-headed bandits who attack from the side and above, startling riders and sending them out again into the darkness. Through another quiet moment, an ancient musical piece plays as the magical caves illuminate, and the vehicle turns to
is it
face
another
what I
sexy
believe is
waifu?
a treasure room. Moving on, and quietly throughout the maze, riders are surprised and encounter pterodactyls who dive towards the vehicle.
Why is
Moving
it
on
pterodactyl?
again
Okay.
into the darkness, they catch a brief glimpse
You
of
suddenly
Bonbon's
left Egypt and went to the freaking Jurassic Park.
cephalopod. Hearing the pained wails of a woman, the vehicle is now passed by what I believe is the monster Cetus, who has swallowed Andromeda as she screams for help. As you move further into
What,
the
you gotta
labyrinth,
blast its
tense
freaking
music
teeth?
begins to play, and
Blast
riders
its teeth
look up
out so she
into
can
a
get out?
mirrored room, conveying a sense of how easy it is to get lost. Riders then move into the finale, a circular room where the Minotaur moves around chamber to chamber, finally attacking the vehicle in this admittedly anticlimactic scene, because from here, the vehicle turns and moves into the unload station.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately, while I would have liked the Minotaur to take on a bigger role in the ride other than its brief scene at the end, I still think that the attraction is really interesting.
Yeah, it would have been
Perhaps
cool if you got to see the Minotaur, like, throughout the ride, like, hunting you down or something.
titling it The Labyrinth of the Minotaur is a bit misleading, since the labyrinth includes so many other stories and monsters, but it's easy to forgive because it's such an intriguing and atmospheric ride.
Bro, they really got the
Disney
two-handed
and
pistols,
Universal
though.
parks have a lot of very technologically impressive rides, but while they're interesting for what they are,
That's cool.
they almost have a little too much polish sometimes. There's something about a ride like The Labyrinth of the Minotaur with its grimy fur, its echoing ride track, and its stiff but disconcerting monsters that evokes a visceral atmosphere that has its own charm. If you're not really a theme park person who craves the sense of atmosphere that is provoked through more rudimentary rides like this, then this might sound like a crazy claim to make.
I
But
feel like it's the uncanny valley, is what it is.
this is
It's
legitimately
that
one of the
aspect, like, has
coolest
so much
rides
to
I've
do with it,
ever
we don't think
seen.
about it.
It's old, and it's certainly not flashy or technologically advanced, but this is exactly what I find interesting about themed experiences. It conveys that sense of mystery and almost fear of the monsters from the stories of the ancient world, and is, I think, a great example of Greek mythology brought to the theme park medium. Returning to the subject of ancient Egypt and its mythology, there are actually a good handful of rides that I think are all worth briefly highlighting. First, there's Flug des Pharaoh, or Curse of the Pharaoh at Volantis, a park in Leipzig, Germany. It's an interesting looking flume ride that has you dropping out of a pyramid, and has a notable whirlpool element that I haven't seen done before,
Oh, that's really freaking sick. That's a cool effect.
but there's not much in terms of storytelling here. As you move into the pyramid, there is an animatronic figure of an archaeologist who is excavating the site, and there is some dialogue that conveys a curse in the tomb as you stare at this Egyptian death mask. But the ride never really touches Egyptian mythology, so I'm not sure if it fits the theme, although I still think it's an interesting ride. Moving next to Gardaland near Lake Garda in northern Italy, the park used to contain an attraction that in English was known as Valley of the Kings. Opening in 1987, the slow-moving dark ride took riders on an expedition where they witnessed the excavation of Pharaoh Tutankhamun's tomb. Subsequently, the arrogant plunder of the pharaoh's resting place results in the release of a curse, and the ride became quite intense as Tutankhamun
Well, no,
took
duh!
his
Stop
revenge.
freaking opening up tombs, stupid!
It's difficult to understand the exact story beats of the
Like,
attraction.
at what point beyond, like, you think there's ever gonna be a freaking movie that where, like, the fool's gonna be like, hey, bro, if we open this, like, it's probably gonna have a curse. Should we just wait? Yeah, let's just wait. Let's not open it. And, like, they leave. And then, like, the story takes place when some other poor fool, like, comes in there and it's just like, what's that? Touches it and he freaking gets the curse and the other two dudes are like, They just get to live a normal life.
because I can't find a translation or synopsis. But regardless, they looked very well designed and atmospheric. The attraction closed in 2008, but reopened the following year with
Practical
a
effects
retheme,
back then were something
known
else.
in English
It's
as
I think it has to
Ramses
do
the-
more with the fact that of course it's the uncanny valley, right, for starters. But more than that, I feel like there's like this big I feel like if you have really cool looking animatronics, it leads to laziness because you just put the animatronics there, like the one we just saw right now for the Disneyland one with the Princess and the Frog. You're gonna just like put the freaking thing there and make it do a cool little move and then just call it a day. Whereas in these, they kind of had to like get smart with it because like you kind of need to sell it, so to speak.
The Awakening. The new attraction recycled a lot of the old sets, but equipped the vehicles with laser blasters and turned the ride into a target game. I have no idea what's going on here, and I can only describe this as Egyptian-themed Terminator. It's certainly no longer a ride concerned with mythology, but it's undoubtedly unique. Unfortunately,
Egyptian Terminator,
this
I'm
attraction
sold.
closed in 2020 and was replaced in 2022 with a Jumanji-themed dark ride.
This is nonsense. They should have
Moving
never
over
changed
to
it.
South Korea, Latte World is a large entertainment complex in Seoul that also happens to contain an indoor theme park. It looks interesting on its own, but I want to highlight an attraction known as Pharaoh's Fury, which opened in 2005. The ride begins by moving through the chambers of an Egyptian tomb, and if you thought that this looks incredibly similar to any of Disney's Indiana Jones dark rides, then yes, there was clearly inspiration for this. What's interesting isn't just its theme, but
Oh,
that
you
it
know
also
what? I
occasionally
honestly,
brings up
I didn't even notice it until he said it. But yeah, this is like the freaking like the little Jeep, isn't it? I freaking love when they go the extra mile and like make it a Jeep or something. You know?
into the
Again,
section of the
it really sells the effect.
park, which breaks the immersion, but is still very cool. The story of Pharaoh's Fury is, like with Valley of the Kings, not entirely clear to me, but essentially, just like Indiana Jones, it takes you through a series of traps,
I hate
tying
this
it all
room.
together
I hate
to
this.
what I believe
Screw
is
this
the
ride.
curse
This
of
ride
the
sucks.
Pharaoh.
I don't wanna ride on it anymore.
I thought about not including the ride because it's more temple traps than actual mythology, but there's a little bit here, so I think it counts. The last attraction, or at least the last one themed to Egyptian mythology that I want to cover, is at Wallaby, Belgium. Known as the Challenge of Tutankhamun, this opened in 2003.
Bro, why does Tutankhamun
and,
look
like
all
with the
ugly like
Labyrinth
that?
of the Minotaur, is another interactive Sally Dark Rides shooting attraction.
Okay, these are kind of cool.
The story of the ride is
Ew!
that archaeologists
What the hell?
observe
Where's his
a man
eyes? He has no
discovered
eyes!
2,000
He
years
has no
ago
soul!
and leads to
What the hell is that?
Tutankhamun's
Is that
mysteries.
Tutankhamun? Is that the zombie?
Against the advice of a mystical seer, visitors enter the tomb and encounter an army of monsters.
That's
which
less
were
creepy than
result
the guy
of
at the
curse
beginning.
invoked by the Egyptian god Set. This makes the ride the most
Also
direct
still less
insight
creepy than the
from
guy at the
Egyptian
beginning.
mythology that I've covered, especially as Set himself appears as an animatronic. Strangely enough, the attraction also has a figure of Cerberus that appears to be almost identical to the version seen in the Labyrinth of the Minotaur, but just with some Egyptian dressing.
They put a
The
hat on
concept
it.
of the ride mostly takes you from room to room, shooting down mummies or other abhorrent creatures.
Well, I
it's
don't know why you
still
gotta
well
call them dumb
executed with
mummies. I mean, you
interesting
don't know
figures
that.
and
You don't know what
effects.
their intelligence
It looks
is. Maybe
to
they
be
got a high
very
IQ.
atmospheric. Before wrapping up Egypt, I do want to highlight two rides that I think people might mention in the comments, but I don't feel necessarily fit the theme of the video. First, at Legoland Florida, there is another Sally Dark Ride shooter known as Lost Kingdom Adventure.
Is it Lego
While it does
themed?
take place in an Egyptian tomb, it doesn't have a mythological aspect to it, instead chronicling the adventure of Johnny Thunder as he and his crew fight off the dastardly Sam Sinister.
In
The
Egypt?
other attraction I want to mention is Terror Tomb, a defunct dark ride that used to be located at Chessington World of Adventures. I think that this one in particular will be mentioned because it does have some Egyptian-inspired elements in it, but the dark ride is otherwise a generic temple, and as cool as it is, the undead metal concert at the
What?
end is just pure camp, and not mythology.
I don't care. That's got hot, sexy mummies. I'm all about it. More sexy mummies, I think. Yes.
I always thought that it would be interesting for Epcot to have a Greece pavilion with a ride relating to mythology. And part of that reasoning is that I have always liked Maelstrom. It certainly wasn't a perfect ride, and is often remembered as being a stronger attraction than it actually was. But while not entirely concerned with the subject of mythology, it still had some notable scenes that contribute to the theme of the video. If you were fortunate enough to have ridden it, you might recall how, on the initial lift hill, you're spoken to by a manifestation of Odin, who takes you back in time to the era of the Vikings. After a few brief scenes, your longboat wanders into the marsh and encounters both a Nonken, who rises from the water, and a three-headed troll who confronts you as an intruder.
Bro, the Nockens are terrifying as hell. Actually, though, Nockens are freaking terrifying. Like, in any mythology, they're freaking horrifying looking.
The era of the Vikings. After a few brief scenes, your longboat
the three-headed troll is one thing, but look at that Nocken, though. I think it's creepy.
Nonken, who rises from the water, and a three-headed troll who confronts you as an intruder.
They always make the Nocken hella
Casting
scary.
A spell, he sends your boat backwards, moving past a scene with polar bears, and the boat then comes to a stop on a switch track, where you encounter what I believe is another Nonken. Falling forward, riders emerge out into modern Norway, or at least from the time the ride was built, 1980s Norway. Maelstrom was a charming but incredibly strange attraction that I've covered before, and while it was short, it wasn't completely themed to Norse mythology. It at least had some moments that I think contribute to the theme of the video. While also another attraction that I've covered in a separate video on Blackpool Pleasure Beach's dark rides, Valhalla certainly counts towards the mythological ride category as well. Embracing a dark Norse mythology theme, this
is that Norse mythology?
As you board a longboat, where you encounter the supernatural side of the Vikings. You'll meet characters like the ferocious Fenrir, encounter monsters of the Norse, and experience the chills of Fimbulwinter, the harsh season that precedes Ragnarok. It's an incredible looking ride,
that's freaking
and I encourage
crazy,
you
isn't
to
it?
check out the video where I covered it. But with its mention,
so after Ragnarok, it's gonna be like a big freeze
on mythological attractions. To my surprise, the Labyrinth of the Minotaur was the only attraction themed to Greece.
How come Thor in the Marvel movies didn't have a winter?
Somehow tied into Atlantis. It's an enchantingly atmospheric and unique attraction that I would like to experience one day, and is all the more appealing since Greek mythology is so underrepresented in the industry. Other than Maelstrom and Valhalla representing Norse mythology though, I was surprised by how popular ancient Egypt and its mythology was, with its content far exceeding anything.
Well, let's be real, there was a lot of mummy movies.
I suppose that underground tunnel at Suitin could potentially be a Buddhist hell ride disguised with an Egyptian theme, but regardless, Egyptian mythology still seems to be represented very well. I'm sure that there are attractions that I missed, representing both the civilizations I covered and potentially others that I didn't, so if you know of anything interesting, please let me know. As always, videos like this take a lot of time to write and research, so if you'd like to support this video and the channel, you can do me a favor by just leaving a like, and if you haven't hit the subscribe button with bell notification yet either, you can also do so now to be alerted to new videos as they're released.
Absolutely amazing, amazing video. Yes, please do go and drop him a like, go drop him a sub. Poseidon Entertainment makes some phenomenal stuff. Oh, there's so many good videos like this, and you get like, he also gives like little history facts or like little like side information that you wouldn't know normally. Definitely go recommend checking out his stuff, big time. Ayoo, Monodachi! Thank you so much for watching this video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also find links to the videos that we reacted to today down in the description below, along with my Oshi marks. I'll see you in the next video, Monos. Goodbye, and thank you so much for swinging by. Salut!